Good morning, everyone. Our Psalm of the day today is Psalm 114. In an episode of the Antiques Roadshow in February, a man brought in a set of bookends, which were valued at £2,000 to £3,000. Why were they so valuable? Because they had been made from a propeller from an American aircraft dating back to the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor, 1941. This, of course, was a huge event in the history of the Second World War. Well, Psalm 114 has another set of bookends, marking two major events in Israel's history. These bookends represent two great bodies of water. The first is the Lord's rescue from Egypt. When Israel came out of Egypt, Jacob from a people of foreign tongue, Judah became God's sanctuary, Israel his dominion. Well, how did that happen? The sea looked and fled. What seemed to be impossible actually happened. The Red Sea parted, and the Israelites crossed through on dry land, a miraculous, powerful deliverance from the Lord. And the second bookend is the Lord's bringing Israel into the promised land. How did that happen? Well, the Jordan turned back. What seemed to be impossible actually happened. The River Jordan at full flood stopped flowing, and the Israelites crossed over on dry ground. Another miraculous, powerful act of the Lord. And there's also the picture of the mountains leaping like rams and the hills like lambs. It could be a poetic description of the Lord coming down at Mount Sinai, or of his general power revealed over the natural world. But how do these bookends make any sense for us today? Well, I think they point to two greater bookends, a greater deliverance and rescue through Jesus Christ. Bookend number one, Jesus' death and resurrection. Matthew tells us that when Jesus died, the earth trembled, and when he rose on the third day, there was an earthquake. What seemed to be impossible actually happened. The Son of God died for sinners and rose again from the dead. A miraculous, powerful act of the Lord. Bookend number two, Jesus' return in glory. Peter tells us that on that day of the Lord, it will bring about the destruction of the heavens by fire, and the elements will melt in the heat. But in keeping with his promise, we're looking forward to a new heaven and a new earth. What might seem to us as impossible will actually happen one day. The earth will tremble at the presence of the Lord. He shall return to destroy the old and make all things new. And here we are, between these two great events. And God is writing our stories in his book, by his grace. So as Christians, we don't need to be afraid, for the Lord has promised to be with us. He's the one who turned the rock into a pool, the hard rock into springs of water. And Paul argues that since God our Father didn't spare his Son, but freely gave him up for us, how will he not also, along with Jesus, graciously give us all things? That is, all things we need to be his witnesses, to live holy and godly lives as we look forward to the day of God and speed its coming. So, take courage. The bookends of redemption are solid. They're not moving. Let's keep our eyes fixed on Christ. Victorious King, when history's fading, you'll call your bride to take her place. Victorious King, Creation's waiting for your redeemed to see your face. Amen.